Could the Oklahoma Sooners recruiting luck get better? Sounds like it. They got a prediction in and a date is set. They may win this one.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the show. You can find us wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, as well as here on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You can sign up over at FanDuel.com. I'm your host, Jay Smith from Unfair Sports. Been covering OU football, SEC, and college football for like the last 5 years. And we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. Not only has a Sooner prospect set a date, a prediction also came in for the Sooners. We want to talk about 2024 breakout candidates from that class, because it is the class that's now needing to show up, as well as can the Oklahoma Sooners secondary make a big leap. But first, the prospect at hand. Sooners have been after wide receiver Jordan Clay out of San Antonio, Texas. The big 6'4" wide receiver has set a commitment date. That date is July 11th, and it sounds like the battle is between Oklahoma, Baylor, and Colorado. I know, right? Would not have thought that, but Jordan Clay put that out there on his social medias. It's going to be between those three in the battle, and Oklahoma seems to be right there in the mix for Jordan Clay. Now, we talked about this on the last show, that the Oklahoma Sooners have struggled a little bit when it comes to recruiting, especially at the wide receiver spot. You had about 4 dudes you thought the Sooners had opportunity of, and 3 of them went a different direction. Well, Oklahoma now has a chance to right those wrongs. Emmett Jones and Jim Nagy and staff can try to reel in guys that they really need. Jordan Clay is one of those. Like I said, out of San Antonio, Texas, 6'4". He's sitting at 200 pounds, and everything about Jordan Clay is a player that you would like. He is a top 120 player in the country. 247 has him listed at 111th in the country on their composite, but 85th in their ranking. So they're very high on Jordan Clay, and honestly, a lot of the other recruiting sites are also high on Jordan Clay, and so are the Sooners. He did a visit, enjoyed himself. He raved about Oklahoma, Emmett Jones, and he likes that he is like the center, of attention for them, and he's one player that they're truly made a priority. The question is, can they seal the deal? Now, you got him and you got Davian Gross, who we've already seen a prediction come in for. But right now, the Sooners are battling against the Baylor Bears. You may be thinking, of all teams, Baylor, how's Oklahoma fighting against them? Well, they're in Texas, and they are actually considered one of the best teams in the Big 12 this coming season. And so they're throwing a lot of money out there as a private school. They're trying to find ways to get themselves established. And remember, today is July 1st, so the rev share check started to kick in. So yesterday was the last day that a lot of these schools can do that front-loading stuff they were doing on their commitments, paying them early on NIL deals. So that's now gone. Now we're back into the standard playing fields. No more the really silly shenanigans we were seeing over the last few days. I mean, if you go look at it, June 30th was a massive amount of commitments. Like I think Georgia had like 8 dudes committing a day. Hyperbole there, but seriously, I think they had like 4 or 5 guys commit yesterday, and you saw the same thing with other schools. So the schools that decided they wanted to jump on the pay people early piece, they took advantage of that bad boy yesterday. So now it's July 1st. Rev share starts now. It's official. I do believe that you're going to see some changes now that for those that have not committed to schools. Now, Jordan Clay isn't the only one that the Sooner fans should be excited about in the recruiting trail for Oklahoma. I think they have a chance with Jordan Clay, but there was another one that the Sooners offered on June 26th, a Joel Wyatt out of Nashville, Tennessee. He got an offer from Oklahoma, and initially when he went to the Rivals 5-star camp, he's a top 60 player in the country. Like, he's a top 60 athlete, 6'4", another 6'4" cat that plays wide receiver and DB. And he was stating that the teams he were lined up for was between Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Well, the Sooners went out there and threw an offer to him on the 26th, and he was supposed to be committing this week. He tweeted out yesterday that, regarding my original plan to announce my commitment on July 6th, I've made the difficult decision to postpone the announcement. Plans are underway to set a new date soon. Now, he got that offer from Oklahoma, and then it seems like things slowed down a little bit with his process, and now he's not announcing on the 6th. It's kind of tying back to the Oklahoma Sooners. Could the Sooners have thrown something at him that he could not pass on? Now, what I've seen and read about Joe Wyatt, he prefers to play defense, especially in the secondary. Oklahoma's recruiting him as a receiver, but there's a possibility that Oklahoma may have enticed him with the opportunity to play both sides of the ball. Now, hear me out. He is 6'4", and he is about 200 pounds. He played linebacker and wide receiver in high school, and he played a little bit of safety, more so cheetah, I guess you could say. And I think that Wyatt has the capabilities of doing that for Oklahoma. I don't know. I mean, it's SEC ball, but he's also in Tennessee. So the Vols are looking at him. So is Vanderbilt. And right now he's heavy. He's been leaning in between those two. And I think it's come down to who's going to give him an opportunity to really play, potentially on both sides. Well, if the Sooners are serious, they may actually win his services, or at least they've given something to think about. Lastly, on that, one player that we do know is about to have a commitment coming up is going to be Jacob Eberhart. Now, me and John has talked about Jacob a few times. He is once again another tall player, 6'3", 220 pound. What is he? Athlete. But he's being recruited, appears to be a safety / also cheetah role. And at his size, the St. Louis, Missouri native has been getting a lot of predictions going towards Oklahoma. The most recent one, Colin Kennedy over at 247 Sooners Illustrated, threw his name in the hat. Now, we listen to Colin a lot because Colin does not put these in very often. And he thinks that Eberhart's going to pick Oklahoma as well on July 12th. So July 11th, you've got Jordan Clay. July 12th, you've got Jacob Eberhart. So it means that the Sooners could have some good luck populate over the next couple weeks right before SEC Media Days. So to make that trip for your boy a little bit more special. But like I said, there's been about 4 people that have already put in. You've got a couple Nebraska guys that have already put in for Jacob Eberhart. You had a national guy already put in for him as well in Greg Smith. So it sounds like a lot of the consensus is going towards Oklahoma here. We'll wait and see if it finishes because these predictions aren't always 100%. They don't bat 1,000. It's just life is life. But I think the Sooners do have a really good chance, and I think that this actually is one that they may have actually closed. We just got to wait and see. We'll find out in July, and of course, we'll cover it here on Locked On as soon as me and John dive into it. Now that we're going into the season, it's July 1st. We got to ask ourselves, is there a 2024 player from that 2024 class that's going to have a breakout season? That and the secondary. Let's talk about it. Coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And, you know, we like to watch the games around here. Like me, I'll jump in there. I like to track a lot of my favorite matchups within FanDuel. I've been keeping up with some of the baseball, especially like Shohei Ohtani. He's always a good bet. But the good thing is FanDuel's always going to keep the app fresh, and they always got new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. So it's whether I'm going to do like a same game parlay or watch, a bet ride all the way out to the ninth inning and see if Shohei can get me one of those complete games. FanDuel makes it feel like I'm a part of that action, even though I'm like nowhere near where he's at Dodger Stadium. But if you are new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. And once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in, subscribing to the show. For your second listen, check out my guy Brian Smith over at The Portal. He's talking all recruiting for college football, just like we did in the first segment. He will keep you abreast at what's going on. So search on YouTube for The Portal at Locked On. And so I want to talk a little bit about the 2024 recruiting class. Now, that is the class that is the first one heading into, I guess you could say, the SEC move. And this was the class where, Oklahoma was hoping that these young players would develop and be the foundational pieces for the SEC. Well, we're now going into year 2 for a lot of these players, and I expect some players to really step up and stand out. You did lose a few players. Eugene Brooks did hit the transfer portal and go back to California, and he's now at, of course, UCLA. You did lose out on Devon Mitchell, who's now over at Louisville. It didn't work out from him coming from California. He went the opposite direction and went to the other coast. You lost out on our guy, who was this, Josh Isosa, went out to West Virginia. And then you had a few players that ended up rolling out. Brendan Zerbrug, who's now transferred over to Utah. Michael Patterson McDonald, who entered the transfer portal. We're waiting to see where he ends up. So you had some players that ended up kind of scooting out, unfortunately. But for this class, there should be some opportunities for some of these names to populate, right? I mean, you still got Michael Hawkins in there, Jaden Hardy, Reggie Powers. I mean, the list goes on with this one. And to be honest, the expectations for the 2024 class was to be the foundational piece. And it appears they are going to be it. And there are so many names on here that I'm trying to figure out who are the ones that I feel like could actually have the season as where it's so broken out. You're like, yep, big time. Well, I think the one that has to have a breakout season is going to be David Stone. He's the 5-star plus guy. He's the one that we've been eyeballing, especially at the fiasco of him entering the portal and then coming back out of the portal. David Stone's got to have a year, man. He was the 5-star plus in his class. He was the one that we expected to be the breakout. This is the year where the expectations are now on the shoulders of a David Stone. The good thing for him is that all the weight of the world's not only on him. He's got Jaden Jackson from that exact same class right there next to him to work together. Still got Dominic Williams as well as Grayson Halton, who's actually a senior. I just looked at it like, dang, that dude's an actual real-life senior. And so David's now going to have to find his place with them in that rotation and make sure that he is very impactful this season. Again, the 2024 recruiting class for the Oklahoma Sooners is definitely the foundation for how Oklahoma is going to perform going forward. And I think that this is the one where David Stone is probably your top breakout candidate out of that class, as you really look through who everyone there. That will be defense. If I'm going to go ahead and give you somebody on the offensive side of the ball, your breakout candidate right now is Zion Kearney. So me and John have talked about the wide receiver room and the players we feel like should break out for the year. And Zion Kearney, to me, after last season and being thrusted out there immediately and having to figure things out and hope the quarterback looks your direction, we did see that Michael Hawkins had a thing for Zion Kearney. That was his dude. And you saw him tossing passes toward him. So now it feels like, hell, the Navy game. He got in the Navy game. He went out there, got the touchdown. And you're like, all right, I think it's starting to settle with him. He's starting to figure it out. But at his size, 6'2", 200 pounds, it's time for us to get this top 100 dude going. And I feel like Zion Kearney now has the opportunity to show up and show out when it comes to this actual season. He's the one on the offensive side of the ball to me, even though we've got Taylor Tatum in here as well against Xavier Robinson or whatnot. Because of the Jaden Ott pickup, I think X-Rob as well as Tatum are going to get their rotations in. But I really feel like at the utmost, Zion Kearney's the one that's going to be the one that's probably going to show out the most. He's the candidate for breakout here. Now, again, this class to me is stacked. This was a top 10 class for Oklahoma. You still got Daniel Okoye. You got Reggie Powers. You got Nigel Smith, Ivan Carry-On, right? You James Nesta, Eddie Pierre-Louis, who we think will probably start at left guard this season. Jeremiah Newcomb, who, hey, that kid looked kind of yoked, man. He looked like stocky. You've got a long list of dudes: Michael Boganowski, Wyatt Gilmore, Isaiah Autry-Dent. You got a good list of players from this class in which, again, Devon Jordan, Eli Bowen. You had Bowen as well as Jaden Jackson as freshman All-Americans. This, to me, is the class that will be that foundation. And I think that this class is going to be the one that's going to define Oklahoma for the next 2 years. This class is the one that's going to make Oklahoma look really good for the next 2 years. And now, even with the recruiting struggles we're seeing right now for Oklahoma, just in this class itself, it'll get made up because of this class. This class is going to go out there on the field and they're going to show up and show out. And because they're going to show up and show out, what's going to happen is you'll see a retro of people saying, oh, they do know what they're doing. I'm down to go play for Brent Venables. I'm down to go play for Ben Arbuckle. I'm down to go play for Todd Bates, etc., so on and so forth. You're going to start seeing some players actually gravitate. I mean, heck, Jay Valai has been killing it right now with his recruiting as of late. And so I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with what we've got going forward, especially when it comes to the secondary. So 2024 class being the foundational piece for the Oklahoma Sooners, it appears that this is the time for it to break out. I want to know from you all. Hop in the comments. Who do you feel like is your breakout candidate for this class? I still feel like on the defensive side, David Stone, it's time for him to go ahead and give us what we've been looking for out of our 5-star plus. And I know he's ready for it. He's hungry. Everyone says all he does is work hard. And since that's the case, I expect him to be that dude. Offensive side of the ball, Zion Kearney. Ball's in your hands, my boy. I know that you're ready. I see the training videos. I've had a few of them sent to me. So that tells me that you are definitely got your mind focused on dominating. The question, though, also for the Oklahoma Sooners is this. Can the secondary show up? It was young and had a lot of transfers, but now it's a lot of internal guys. Let's talk about it. Secondary ready to make that leap. Next up here on Locked On Sooners. And thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in, subscribing to the show. You can find us wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, as well as here on YouTube. So make sure you hit that like and that bell notification so you don't miss a single episode whenever it drops. The secondary has been a point of contention with the Oklahoma Sooners. Me and John have talked about this for a bit. And I went back and had to dig to get a better understanding of why we have felt like the secondary has been, slightly a struggle. This is no shade to the players that we've had, but it has not been as good as we would have liked. Like, it hasn't been super stoppy, let's put it that way. And it always has felt like our secondary was susceptible to the deep ball. And we saw that. The Tennessee game, to me, was probably bear witness of, we've got to do something better here at the corner spot. And I think that the Sooners may be there. So when I went and looked back at it, Oklahoma spent a lot of time in the transfer portal when Brent Venables first got here. You got a Kendal Doby, you got a Kenai Walker, you got a CJ Colden, right? You had a lot of these dudes that you brought in as transfers, and they were kind of mercenaries. Des Malone. You had a lot of mercenaries there in the secondary. Technically Kendal Doby, but he was a JUCO guy, so he doesn't really count in that. But you had to deal with a lot of mercenaries in that spot. So you had Woody Washington over there with a Gentry Williams. And then as that season was going on, you're like, all right, Gentry is going to be that guy. Then he had the shoulder injury, had to have shoulder surgery. The surgery didn't work properly. They had to go back in and clean it up again. And so you lost him for a full season. Well, it sounds like Gentry Williams is back on the up and up. And the expectation is he's going to play and play at a higher level than he did the year before. Kendal Doby, I saw him at the Crimson Combine. He's come on my show over at Unfair Sports. He's come over here on Locked On Sooners and talked about that. And he was cleared, rumor has it, in March. And they've just been having him take his time, but he's still going through drills and moving as if he's actually ready to play. So if that ankle injury that he dealt with and he's cleared to go, which it was gruesome, it was the longest timetable possible, 6 months is when he was ready to go. So if Doby's ready to go now, Gentry Williams is also ready to go. We know Eli Bowen had like a sprained ankle, at the beginning of camp here in the spring. That'll be fine by the fall because they basically have shelved him. You got your 3 corners right there on the veteran side that you're ready to go that have been in the Brent Venables system the entire time. I mean, Eli's the youngest, but he showed us that he's capable of figuring it out in this system. But then you bring in some of the other younger guys right behind him, a Jacoby Johnson, one player that we're hoping will, figure out his 2 left feet and go out there and not fall, but still be able to play. We talked about the 24 class on the last segment. That's where Jeremiah Newcomb comes in and Devon Jordan comes into play. That secondary is sitting with more so veteran guys that should be ready to go today. And then on top of them, you've got the true freshmen and Cortland Guillory, right? You got Tristan Haynes back there. You got Malik Hawkins, bigger corners to go with everybody else. The secondary is still, for the most part, young when it comes to depth, but they don't lack dudes who should be ready to play at this level. Like Jacoby was doing well when it came to his coverage and playing in the secondary whenever he didn't look like he had 2 left feet. He would tumble out there and fall. Eli Bowen has showed you what you can do with a short but mighty guy. Like he's been scrapping and fighting his whole life. And he looked like that in the secondary. So, and Jay Valai, if you've ever seen or met Jay Valai, I saw him at the Crimson Combine, got to, chop it up and dap him up or whatnot. He ain't the tallest dude. So you've got a scrappy dude teaching scrappy guys how to be scrappy. And for Oklahoma, the secondary is going to be critical to be able to pick up on the mistakes that the offensive line is able to force out of the opposing offense. Remember, Oklahoma was up there in interceptions last season. And because they were up there in interceptions last season, we kind of feel like there's a chance that Oklahoma can do that again. Turnovers was a big thing for Oklahoma last year. They were taking the ball away from the competition. That was the one thing they did actually very well. They also gave the ball away a lot. But if Oklahoma does what they're supposed to, they should be able to increase that number on the interception piece next season. And that's going to be because the defensive line is going to get the pressure they're supposed to, and the secondary is going to come behind them and make sure that they're taking plays away. Because remember, in 2023, when we had a healthy secondary, we were super comfortable with that secondary, we had 20 interceptions gained in that season. 20 interceptions. Huge. And we traded off last year's interceptions for sacks and forced fumbles. Something that none of y'all complained about. We had 12 forced fumbles last year. We only had 9 picks because we dealt with so many injuries just as a team. But I expect this secondary now to take that lead. They have the guys to do it. That 2024 class is the one that this is their time to shine. I mean, I would say the 2023 class is probably one. We'll talk about breakout candidates for them on the next show because there are some. There's ones on offense and defense that should do it, even though we've had actually a larger amount of transfers than I actually anticipated. Oh my goodness, we had a lot of transfers out of 23 class. We'll dive into that on tomorrow's episode. But the one thing to keep in mind when it comes to this episode, this component when it comes to the secondary making this leap is if the Oklahoma Sooners live up to expectations, I expect them to have more than 20 interceptions next season. 20 interceptions is the number that I think the Oklahoma Sooners defense can do on the secondary side, because I think that the defensive line can force a lot of tip passes, which leads to interceptions, something that we saw in 2023. I remember one thing fans were pretty upset about with that 2023 team, even though it went 10-2 in the regular season and lost in the bowl game to go 10-3 overall, that they didn't have very many sacks. But the one thing you realize is when they were playing against all these teams in the Big 12 was everybody's playing max protect. The team that didn't play max protect against them was Texas, and Texas gave up 5 sacks in that game. And they also gave up 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. You see that, right? That's something that this team can do well whenever they have the opportunities in front of them. The SEC, they ain't going to go max protect against us. They expect to be able to run through our offensive line, right? They expect to be able to dominate our defensive line. And so nobody's going to run max protect out there in the SEC, in my personal opinion. They're probably going to be like, we dare you. We triple dog dare you, no Sykes, to go through us. Let me see what you got. Well, because we've got considered one of the best defensive lines in the country, as well as one of the best in the SEC, that defensive line should be able to create all kinds of opportunities for the secondary. And so the DB side, we should be solid. We know the safeties are like Robert Spears Jennings and a 2023 candidate, Peyton Bowen, should be ready to go. If not, Jaden Hardy is going to be right there from 2024 with Reggie Powers and Michael Boganowski. We got 5 dudes there in the safety room that I have no concerns about, and I expect actually to show up and show out. Even with the transfer, Kendal Daniels getting the opportunity to play a little cheetah. Your entire secondary is way more veteran, way more understanding of how Brent Venables want to do things, and they're also extremely physical and very much physically gifted. I know they can handle the SEC. We've seen it. Now we need to have the corners to do it, and I think Gentry Williams is that dude. Gentry is a corner that can actually play at the SEC level. Eli has shown that he can. You just got to not put him in certain situations. But he'll cause problems. I mean, heck, him and Ryan Williams was a fun battle to watch when we played against Alabama. And Eli got a pick. So if there's anything that Eli's going to bait them boys into doing something they shouldn't do. And he's going to force it to where he's going to have an opportunity to get a pick. So all I know is keep your eyes open. I do think that the Sooners will shock you all, especially out of the secondary. And so let's see how that goes. Well, that's it here for Locked On Sooners. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the show. We appreciate you pulling up. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts. We are free and available wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, as well as on YouTube. So hit the like button as well as the bell notification. That way you don't miss whenever a show drops. Follow us also all the social medias on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Threads, Pinterest. Just search for Locked On Sooners. You will find us there. Follow me at Unfair Sports. You can also follow my guy John at John9Williams. The show is Locked On Sooners everywhere out there. So for John, I'm your boy Jay Smith. We will chop it up with all of you tomorrow. Boomer Sooner.